Cornell University. Library, Hiram Abiff, The Builder. By Lincoln Giuli, Ph.D. President John B. Stetson University, DeLand, Florida. Dedicated to the Grand Lodge of Florida. Free and Accepted Masons, January 20th, 1921. Hiram Abiff, The Builder. The time for my translation is at hand, the mystery soon begins. The evening bell may this year call me to my rest. There stand dear smiling faces waiting while I tell my rosary. Sweet faces that I dwell, a benediction in my heart. And I shall go to meet them with a smile and spell with them the lessons of a world on high, and share with them a mansion in the sky. Not that life is drear. Ah no, 'tis sweet. The dear kind earth, the smiling sky, the day with all its happy hours and noble gifts that greet us all, the tender flowers, the warming ray of dawn, the singing birds, the lambs, at play, and those dear memories of songs long lost, that come again, and wake old chords that say, as we live on, so you, as we once tossed aside return, so thou. Fear not life's holocaust. When I was young like you, my good grandsire taught me the great tradition of our craft. No, not the inner rites, the tongue of fire, the mystic lamp that flames up like a shaft at all initiations, each fine draught of secret word or sign no one might know. But he was truly mindful so to graft the truths behind the symbols, used to show the world, upon my mind that still the figures glow. I am an old man now, and soon, said he, my sun shall set. Therefore, my grandson, hear my word. Thy father, whose brave face in thee once more appears, enjoined me when the fear of death came on, and angel forms drew near, that I should teach the craftsman's life and art to thee, for thou shouldst know he held them dear. Indeed, he was so skilled in every part they held the place of honor in his heart. They are a system that shall surely last till all the monuments of man decay, because they ground themselves in that great past which puts to test the claim each in its day may make. The rubbish years will brush away. Surviving truths like stars shall hold their place, and shine with golden luster where they stay. Resplendent beacons are they to our race which time cannot with all its gnawing power efface. The Holy Bible is the Mason's foremost guide, his hope, his trust, companion, leader, friend, the jewel of his life. It shall abide when all the planets fade. It shall defend when other helpers fad. Ill fortune send dull skies, bad dreams, or hurl us down to dust. Still shall this chart, this compass, upward tend to steer us on our journey, as we trust, and bring us home at last together with the just. Fetch me the plans that lie there on the right beyond the trestle-board's big chest of tools. They bear the marks of many hands. The light shines low, but place those easy stools beside the windowsill. There, the fools have spilled fresh ink square on the lovely vase, in picture traced upon the frieze. The rules, the lines, the symbols, plans try to erase, they all appear again in some old mason's place. Our rituals and rubrics run way back and lose themselves behind the morning mists of early times. The eyes will strain and crack, before they find the mystic runes and lists. In that far distant day which first assists our ancient faith, they grew apace, they welled like some hid mountain spring. The rhapsodists of every age in many tongues soon swelled the stream. Then Hiram rose, and all its charm beheld. A chosen people had received a law engraved on stone, the deserts even waste, the silences, the distances, the awe of lonely spaces, stars and midnights chaste and holy calms, the absence of all haste are written on its face. Preserved within a sacred ark, it formed a people's taste, begot in all a righteous hate for sin. To hold it, last, the hearts of man a shrine begin. Mycenae's gate one always sees disclosed in those great tragedies of power the Greeks relate. In every background duly posed appears that gate. As when a chorus speaks or like a shadow follows all, and seeks to plant itself inside our thoughts and deeds, so haunts Mycenae's gate the play. It shrieks, or croaks like some foreboding fate, and leads one's mind along as all the mighty plot proceeds. So does that Jewish temple fill the mind of pious pilgrims through the golden years. Their lives, their hopes, their past, their aims, their blind, instinctive yearnings cling to it with tears of love and joy. A background fraught with fears alone of sin would kill the springs that joy starts in the soul. But yonder temple rears its mighty dome 500 years, and bids employ the voice, the heart, the tongue in praise without alloy. A tent pitched in the open field at first received the ark. Abinadab next gave it shelter in his house. Then soon a burst of great prosperity rolled like a wave upon the man. The king and people craved the blessing for the host. A call was heard to build a house, and bring the ark, and save the nation's precious shrine, whose holy word the hearts of pious saints and preaching seers had stirred. And so to David came the purpose fixed to choose the topmost hill on Jebus's fort, and there construct a temple. Soon he mixed the grandest thoughts, and dreamed a great resort, a city built upon those heights, a court of royal size, a palace for himself, a fane, where hosts of men might worship God, in short, a temple vast, resplendent, that should drain the wealth of all the world, the glory of his reign. But God said, Nay, look at your dripping hands, they reek with blood. No man of war shall build my house. Go bring your son. His swift commands, when peace shall follow war, shall be fulfilled. The men of cunning arts, the craftsman's guild, shall seize the noble task, assemble all details of plan and parts, and these well skilled shall lay its massive base, and rear its wall, and crown it with the people's gifts both great and small. 'Twas Solomon whose royal word decreed the mighty enterprise. Swift runners take decrees through all the land. The royal need is money, men, materials. Forsake your easy lives. The king commands, awake. King David bade us give Jehovah's name a worthy place. Therefore, arise, and shake dull sloth from off your hearts. The royal claim is heard. The land at once burst into sudden flame. The royal levies placed a heavy tax on oil, provisions, labor, polls, and tithes. Custodians of the treasure were not lax in gathering what was due. The peasant writhes beneath the burdens borne. Their plows and scythes the faithful tribute earned for many years, conscripted service and the royal tithes. From slaves were duly wrung with sighs, with tears, with curses mid their toils, and muttered groans and fears. Hence silver, iron, gold, alloys and brass immense in size were saved to aid the work. So many marbles, onyx, opals pass to swell the treasure of the king, none shirk, for fear the royal wrath shall fall and jerk the pins from out their tents, and send them out as slaves. Besides, one sees within them lurk the strivings of religious zeal. They shout, Jehovah reigns, and joy and faith give way to doubt. But who could draw so vast and grand a scheme? What Michelangelo was there? What man that in his teeming brain such splendors gleam he might attempt the vast cathedral plan? Yes, such there was, half Jew, half Tyrian ran his blood. Hiram Abiff, Angelo's self the first engraver of his race, he can, like that titanic Florentine, no elf, but giant, swing the plan, a pattern of himself. Abiff means father. Such he was indeed to Solomon and Hiram, senior he. In age, his brains and skill they both concede. Hiram Abiff, the builder. Here we see the genius God inspires eternally. With reverence both kings own his supreme immense intelligence. In high degree, each gave him honor, held in high esteem. The temple builder, Hiram, follower of the gleam. Another Hiram, king of Tyre, a man, constructed on a lordly plan, arose to meet the great occasion. Straight there ran a message to his brother. Haste, propose some work of love. I shall not seek repose until my friend, great Solomon, consent to use my vast resources. Hence, compose your high commands. With grace they so cement their hearts. Thus, all King Hiram to his brother lent. The great Grand Masters were therefore these Tnre, Grand Master Hiram, called in love Abiff, in whose creative brains is held the key, the royal Solomon, whose will is stiff to see the project through. Then from the cliff came Hiram, king of Tyre, the lordly friend. These three agree, and pledge that ne'er a tiff shall sunder them, a solemn vow they lend, based on a secret word, held sacred to the end. Grand Master Hiram built himself a shed wherein he shaped his work, and drew his plans. A trestle board was full in view. His head bent low above it daily. Here the clans of workers get their orders, while he spans the spaces as a spider spins its web. About him lie his charts and rules. He scans them all, the men, the work, the tools, the ebb and flow of forces, as he guides his pencil's neb. The wise Grand Master planned our trestle board 3,000 years ago. Size, shape, and form were fixed. The timbers were the best. Long stored and seasoned cedars, oaks and firs, the worm had not attacked, whose fibers, knit in storm and blast, grew stout and strong. Old mountain kings they once had towered along the slopes. The warm, long summer days, the sweet south wind that sings, had wrought themselves from core to bark in yearly rings. With chisel, hammer, saw, and plane, the best artificers had wrought its level top of planks. They smoothed the face, and tightly pressed their beveled edges each to each. They prop it tip with 8 stout beams, that, slanting, drop divergent legs which then are squarely set upon a cedar floor. This done, to stop vibration dead, he braced the feet, and let a smooth planed rest run round where floor and trestle met. 'Twas there the builder wrought. Ah, what a brain, what soaring plans he drew! There on that plank the great God let him see a vision plain that reached unto the sky. Upon a blank white surface went the lines, then rank on rank the columns rose, the altar took its place. 4 smooth white walls of quarried rock, a bank of terraced pavement, all built on a base of granite, rose the temple rich in strength and grace. And in that shed he daily kept in view the very things our craft holds to this day. The book, the law, the square, the chisel too, the compasses, the trowel, plumb and tray, whereon he kept the chalk, the charcoal, clay, with which he sketched the circles, arcs and lines upon the maps and charts. And oft they say he blessed the tools as symbols like great shrines, and glorified the meanings underneath the signs. His book of constitutions clearly says, our thoughts belong to God. Our works and deeds spring from no less a source, and when one prays he should lift up clean hands and tell his needs with lips that voice a pure heart. The creeds men hold appear not in their books, each lives in acts, in words, in thoughts. The humblest reads it there, and when one least suspects he gives the world his creed, and that his loudest word out lives. His compasses too teach thee wholesome truth, the arcs and curves its pointed branches trace, the perfect circles, small and great forsooth, speak volumes for a life of charm and grace. Symmetrical, inlaid with gold and lace, of heavenly deeds, of passion curbed and lust, restrained within due bounds, truth's lovely face will shine with brighter glory in the just when wrought with compasses whose tracings we may trust. The scythe of time shall shortly cut us down. Like grass we grow up in the early light of day, like grass we droop, and from the town at evening time the reapers come. Soon night envelops all, our place on left and right shall see another race begin, it too shall fade. Behold what havoc and affright the swinging scythe creates. Ah, all too few shall be our days, when time's sharp ruthless scythe is through. That pot of incense burning night and day sends up a precious odor of sweet smell to God. For 'tis an emblem of the way the pure in heart make sacrifice and tell their holy joy. Ecstatic raptures well from humble souls as smoke goes from that urn. Acceptable as praise from tuneful bell is purity of life, and hearts that yearn send incense up to God from inward fires that burn. And hast thou noted that bright Tyler's sword, whose keen edge cuts like finely tempered steel? No sharp Damascus blade could well afford to match its razor thrust, nor flesh to feel its double-edged lip, when one shall kneel before the shrine and learn the lessons taught. That Tyler's sword mounts guard when once the seal, that binds to silence every dark word caught, is set upon our lips and ail our inmost thought. That anchor speaks of thy well-grounded hope. It holds through all the wintry blasts at sea. Behold the lightning's flash, be swift. The rope that ties the anchor, heave it out, blow free ye winds, ye billows roll. Dance, dance with glee, ye wild tempestuous storms, that anchor strong shall grip the rocky ledges and shall be our sure protection. See, each hooked prong tenacious holds through storm however fierce or long. At last the work begins. The plans are held within the builder's mind. In order planned the men take up their tasks, each one upheld by masters to his place. The hours demand full service given. At noon the crowds disband, refreshment follows toil, the master goes to kneel and worship. All so understand. At night their wages, when the sunset glows, corn, wine and oil, their due rewards, the chief bestows. Bleep mired, the slaves, an alien foreign crew, in fearful sullenness their toil take up mid-secret curses, venting rage in view of all the toilsome tasks. They drain the cup made bitter by the lash. They daily sup on coarse hard fare, and catch most cruel blows made harsh by drivers armed with thongs. Some pup, who wore a brief authority, thus shows a shallow heart, and deeply wrongs the God he knows. Of slaves, 150,000 men were set to drawing water, hewing wood and other menial tasks. In relays, then the quarrymen, artificers and good skilled workmen of each craft or brotherhood were drafted for the work. Their overseers, fine captains, gifted much, a chosen brood, great men of brains, and men the straggler fears, trained to command Grand Master Hiram led for years. The craftsmen were arranged in schools and guilds, according to their worth and skill. Each class was taught by masters in the arts, their will was cheerfully obeyed. Thus order ruled the mass of sturdy working men. Each had a pass, or sign, that gave admission to his group. A whispered word unlocked a door of brass like magic. Though the mighty come with troop and horse, they must present the password at the stoop. The basic principles of human life were taught the men as in the lodge today. That none should fail a brother's need, that strife should die stillborn, that faith and trust should sway. Deliberation will restore the stray impulses of the heart, love conquer hate. That men should fight their sins and humbly pray, and all their talents daily consecrate to serve the high ideals which they formulate. The precious jewels of a Mason's creed are friendship, truth, morality, and love. When these are shrined in thought and word and deed, they shine like holy stars in heaven above. A priceless boon they are, the turtle dove, that turns its irised feathers to its mate, can boast no livelier grace. With gentle shove he crowds his throated beauty soon and late. So shines the Mason's virtues, dazzling, clear and great. Apprentices were taught to use the tools aright. The kind each had, its meaning too, were plainly shown to them, and only fools could fail to see the symbols clear and true, behind them all. Thus drilled that none might rue Grandmaster Hiram's stern reproof, they found the work was almost play. The whole day through their hearts in joy were to their labor bound, the story of the tools into their feelings wound. Not only so, the men were taught great rules of art, the meanings of each piece of stone, the sacredness of things not taught in schools, the love of work, the beauty and rich tone that lurk in color, form and line. The throne where sits the soul of Masonry, ablaze with jewels of the craft, was duly shown in symbol, maxim, pantomime, a maze of matchless glory couched in polished act, phrase, and the ashlar, rough and rude where first it lies in some bleak hillside quarry waits its day. Its broken edges, blunt and sharp, the eyes of none would catch, but hear the master say, I see in that a dream, an angel fay, a form of grace and strength. Go fetch it here. And from that raw, rough mass, with tools true play, they break the prison doors, to make appear a thing of joy and beauty, ever bright and clear. The chiseled ashlar stands at last in view, an educated stone. Behold the prize, its coarse hard parts in many pieces flew. Here there the bits fell off, and what surprise! Forth stepped the angel's self before their eyes, a perfect ashlar, all beholding shout, a very God enshrined. A workman cries, one looks to see his angel shoulders sprout. Within was beauty's self, though roughness dwelt without. The gauge Grandmaster Hiram used was notched in equal parts, the edges marked, whereby it measured inches 24. No botched or ugly work got past the master's eye. Nor was that all. Divide your time and try, said he, to give the day 3 equal parts, the one to serve your God who rules on high, the next to give to toil in all the arts, the last to get refreshment for your weary hearts. The gavel was the quarry mason's tool, for chipping off rough corners of the stone, and fitting them for places marked by rule. It means that we should hew clear to the bone, chip off the vices, cut the cancers grown into our hearts, our consciences, our souls, that so we might the better truly own a breast made clean from ugly bats and moles, expelled forever from their hidden haunts and holes. The fellow craft advanced to higher rank due to his marked proficiency. A boon in every workshop is the man whose frank devotion wins him favor. The buffoon is shoved aside. The workers all lampoon his useless idle ways. For solid work, the fellow craft is crowned. His tools he soon shall put to higher use. For those who shirk, the demons of a troubled heart and conscience lurk. Among our working tools the men all feel none teach a better lesson than the plumb, stretched on a line that hangs as true as steel points to the pole. And though its voice is dumb, it speaks no less of him whose smallest crumb of wisdom has no bounds. We drop the line, earth grips the bob at gravitation's mum command. It does not by a hair decline, our actions should no less obey a power divine. No mason ever worked without a square who did his best. It is a certain test by which his work is tried. When straight and fair in all its parts it gets due praise, the rest lines true, the square of virtue too is best, by which we judge our lives. For God and man the rule of right prevails. In yonder west, in yonder east, beyond the stars the plan is one, the square shall try as nothing crooked can. The level shows our horizontals true. It keeps our building upright, bound by law, that deep within the heart of things, we view as part and parcel of the world. The claw, that grips the stars above, whose vice-like jaw holds all the molecules of matter firm, is in the mason's level. Not a flaw disturbs its work. So in our brief life's term, on level lines our acts should all our faiths confirm. The master masons were the overseers, 3,000 stalwarts plus 300 more, a noble sight to see. Their skill endears them to the craft. In word and deed they store the subtle mysteries, the matchless lore, that lift them out above the mass of men. 'Tis theirs to press the work, and to outpour the energies of those who toil, and then once more to learn the new plans in their masters' den. Each craft has special symbols, special rules, new signs and grips and passwords for the day. The master mason's silent hourglass schools his soul to certain habits. They portray the inner principles that ought to sway a man's decisions, conduct, at all times. Ah, brothers, hear our great Grand Master say, your lessons learn, be great, be true, the chimes throughout eternity shall ring our deathless rhymes. The beehive, built by honey-making bees, that rests not through the daylight's happy hours, but laden with their bags of sweets one sees. Like dusty millers visit all the flowers, to bore their hearts and drain the cup that dowers the swarm with golden nectar for the hive, whose bulging walls beneath wild rosy bowers receive the workers to be homeward drive, should teach thee those who daily toil shall truly thrive. The dread hourglass its fateful story tells, of swiftly passing time, the sands run low, make haste to fill the hours as each one swells with golden opportunity. Up! Throw away dull sloth, and quickly catch the glow that dawn on yonder eastern sky unfolds. The winged minutes swiftly onward go, the sands are falling, falling. One beholds the hag of darkness, waits our coming step, and scolds. The work goes on all over hill and PLA4N, not only in the vales, but on the crest of mountains far away. Out on the main the boatmen steer the rafts, and from the west, with willing beasts, the plainsmen do their best to fetch their loads. Beyond the Jordan groan vast throngs. Far up the northern height abreast big banks of snow the woodsman's axe alone disturbs the peace. In all the master's mind is shown the royal caverns near the temple rocks, the quarries opened in the Bethlehem hills, the slopes of Lebanon, rich in granite blocks, gave up their stone. The hammers, mauls, and drills performed their steady work. With various skills the artisan hewed off the knobs uncouth, the polished surface shone. His hand instills a spirit into marble slabs. Thus youth informs his growing soul with ever-living truth. The cedar, firs, and pines upon the ridge that stretches east and west across the plain, the foresters of Hiram felled, to bridge the realm of Solomon with his, and gain a lifelong friend. An oath between the twain had made them like to brothers. Common ends kept true the mighty king of Tyre to strain his energies to help his friend. He sends him workers, trees on floats, and mighty stores he lends. 5. The clay pits of the Jordan Valley gave the molds wherein were poured the molten brass, for lavers, shovels, flesh hooks, pillars brave, the pots and brazen altar, and a mass of useful things. The brazen gates surpass all others in the world. Their massive weights and worth exceeded all account. No class of furnishings was like those molten gates that faced the courts and porticos like perfect mates. The spoils of war and many a friendly gift were poured into the royal treasure chest from time to time. With care and prudent thrift the store increased. It came from east and west, the purest gold, 500 tons, the best, the choicest silver, full 1,000 tons, and precious stones, a store digged from the breast of earth's rich hills. The wealth of treasure stuns the eye, in iron, brass, the gifts of all her sons. Off in the forest loud the axes ring, The quarried hills resound with hammer blows. The falling trees a crashing echo bring, as on the trembling earth they stretch in rows. The whir and noise of artisans arose like music through the hills, and precious stone and brass, and hewed out beams from wood that grows 1,000 years, are massed in heaps alone, and gems and priceless jewels worth a royal throne. Not so within the city. On the streets no sound was heard, no hammer ever rang to jar the peace. The tuneful rhythmic beats of happy hearts, that daily softly sang the joy they had in toil, quite drew the fang of care. The base, the walls, each brazen gate, the steps, the altars, shrines, the doors where curtains bang, in silence dropped into their places straight. Soon shall the temple rise in majesty sedate. Mount Olivet was first to catch the eye, a higher ridge. But no. They chose the hill where God called Abraham to bind and tie his only son a sacrifice, where still was shown the spot that David's active will had marked to signalize escape from foes. An angel's upraised sword was drawn to kill the pestilence that stalks along and throws its baleful poisons charged with death and deadly woes. Araunah's threshing floor upon the top of Mount Moriah was the chosen site. The big uneven rocks begin to drop into the crevices, then, soon, the height a smooth-faced surface shows. A gorgeous flight of terraced slopes ascends the slanting way. An esplanade of vast proportions quite astounds the wondering host, and every day the work advances fast without the least delay. Upon the east a sharp descent was made into the Kedron Vale. Here must be built a wall tremendous in its height. The grade was steep, and on the inner side, the silt and sand and broken rock were dumped and spilt to raise the great facade to the plateau above. Thousands of slaves and natives tilt the carts and baskets. Down the contents go like ants upon an anthill swarming to and fro. The broad foundation stones were laid upon those granite rocks that ribbed the ancient hill. The everlasting fundaments, whereon the mountains rested. Deep they digged until the bases of the temple settled still and firm like rigid Mother Earth. The shake of thunder rumbling o'er the ridge, the grill that rocks the mountain masses in a quake, must split the earth before its solid walls should break. Beneath the hill vast reservoirs and drains were cut. Straight through the quarried rock they ran, to hold the water of the latter rains and carry off the refuse. Such a plan for storage, purging, when the feast began, and countless slaughters stank beneath the sun. Through blazing summer days, one plainly can discern is due to him, who had begun great public works, that should the dreams of man outrun. From terrace up to terrace sloped the hill till high above the city rose the square, an esplanade of engineering skill on which Grand Master Hiram's plans grew fair. A master mason of such brilliance rare was he, the kings left all details to him. He took with Solomon an equal share in popular acclaim. His visage grim concealed a humble MD&D, his figure spare and slim. Upon the top one reached the outer court, the border lined with columns in a row. Upon this mall shall crowded throngs consort, where shade trees catch the sun's most fiery glow. The cooling mountain breezes come and go among these leafy coverts. People group themselves about, or idly watch the slow processions drift. The pious pilgrims stoop to pray, or toward the inner court advance, a steady troop. A flight of steps led to a higher court, reserved for priests alone. A balustrade, surmounted by a cornice, flanked a short and easy passageway. Hewn stones were laid to make a pavement. Here a cavalcade of priests pressed to the central altar stairs. 10 cubits high, a structure brave, strong made, of brass and stone and earth, on which there flares a spiral flame, and wreaths of smoke at time of prayers. And in the inner court the master placed the altars and the molten sea, a bowl of mighty size, the laver, broadly based upon the backs of 12 big bulls, the whole surrounded by 3 steps down to a hole, or pool below. Before the temple stood 2 brazen columns, Jachin, Boaz, goal of molten artist's dream, there too the good, big brazen altar, built for sacrifice in blood. This molten sea was set off by a rim that formed a lily blossom. Cast in 2 big rows a garland of wild gourds, a brim of bronze, hung o'er the edge. 10 cauldrons drew the water borne on wheels, adorned with true cherubic emblems, pencil flowers that hung in graceful bunches. Daily streams renew the pool, and round the borders, gaily strung, the wild grape clusters, branching stem and foliage, swing, alone, in silent majesty. The dream a mass of snowy marble meets the eye, enclosed in polished cloisters. When the gleam of dazzling sunlight streaks the eastern sky, and hits the golden dome that towers on high, or, when the queen of night, the silver moon, descends and bathes the scene, the glories nigh, the soul of beauty slips from its cocoon. The great transfiguration splendor cometh soon. A forest flower, lifted from the dells and carried like a lily to its place, with soft chaste petals, like the rose that swells in June to waft its fragrance to one's face. That temple floated from its forest base, and rested on the vast Judean hill. Behold, the granite's strength, the lily's grace. Wood, metal, stone-wise kings and workmen's skill, obeyed the great Grand Master's brains and mighty will. The porch without was faced by two superb and lofty pillars, miracles of art. Their sides were fluted bronze, naught could disturb the solid strength their size and weight impart, their capitals like lotus leaves dispart. The walls were hung with shields, the spoils of war, and other armor like Goliath's dart, and sword, some helmets, spears a goodly store, enough to thrill the heart with love of days of yore. The whole was roofed with polished cedar planks nailed fast to cedar beams. These reached across. The walls, the rafters, ranged in even ranks, were braced. The upper stories, rich with boss designs, were cut up into rooms, no loss of space allowed. The finest timbers known were used, in perfect state preserved. No dross nor refuse wood nor metalwork nor stone could anywhere be found. The best ruled there, alone. More cunning workmen versed in subtle arts assembled for this work than e'er had been together at a single time. The parts were numerous, and called for skill akin to canny magic. Carvers soon begin fantastic gargoyles, shrewd engravers cut, most graceful palms and ferns, each one a twin. Wild clustered grapes, pomegranate, leaf and nut. Here lotus lilies, and there slaves that leap and strut. The great command forbidding forms of things in heaven above, on earth beneath, to art and man's device was not denied. The wings that spread above the mercy seat, at heart the eagle, lion, ox and man, impart divine authority to give the best a human brain can plan, a counterpart of all the beauty in the golden west, in dawns and stars and flowers that flames the hue. Man breast. The beams linside were made of cedar wood, the inner walls of fir and almug trees. All these were overlaid with gold, the good. Strong doors were inly carved with palms, and these adorned with cherubim. A flowery frieze ran round it all, the whole o'erlaid with gold, nailed on in solid plates. The more to please, a garnishment of precious stones in bold relief adorns the walls and doors, of worth untold. This was the holy place, and here was kept the golden altar where the incense smoked. 10 branching candlesticks, whose keepers slept in changing turns, and when the shadows choked the daylight off, the jeweled walls were soaked with mellow candlelight. 10 tables made of gold received the shew bread, once invoked by David in his need. The floor was laid in polished wood and stone of every precious grade. A rich assortment grew of silver urns and golden bowls to meet the temple's needs. Most lavish gifts of brazen censers burn, with de-incense, smoking prayers to God. Sweet creeds of piety express themselves in deeds that serve the oracle with knives to trim the lamps, bronze cups to catch the oil, glass beads to dress the robes, gold saucers curved of brim, and silver salvers wrought with perforated rim. A winding stair led to the upper rooms, the middle chamber, where the fellow craft was wont to meet. Still higher up there looms a hall of many closets, fore and aft, to store the garments of the priests. A shaft of light, from many candles, casts a gleam. Across the darkness there, a constant draught of air was carried to those rooms. A stream of craftsmen daily mingle here, to think and dream. Embroidered robes and tapestries were hung. Inside, rich curtains dyed in crimson, blue and colors from the juice of fish were strung in rich profusion. Carpets made of true Sidonian wool, and rugs and hangings too, were woven with the greatest skill on looms they worked by hand, and scarf bands not a few adorned the inner chambers. All the rooms were rich with cloth of gold on which some flower blooms. Shaped like a cube, they built inside a shrine. Take off your shoes where angels fear to tread. The sanctum sanctorum, like the room divine, where once a year the high priest went with dread. While people feared he might be stricken dead, enshrouded in perpetual darkness, save a candle gleam that day the high priest made appeal for all. Floor, wall, dark as the grave, and ceiling, made of gold the grateful people gave. In breathless wonder note the sacred things, the holy ark, the mercy seat above, the blessed cherubim whose outstretched wings and curves bend tip to tip. The holy dove of God broods o'er that chest with deathless love. Inside the pot of manna, Aaron's rod, that budded like a bush, when warm rays shoved the rose sap through the roots beneath the sod. And over all the law that binds the throne of God. Such was the dream, and such in very fact the temple was, when at the end it rose. Between the earl of dream and final act a mass of little details they compose. Because the early flowers bloom fair they chose to lave the cornerstone in lovely spring. An autumn dedication they propose when festivals of harvest are the thing. Since earth has poured her wealth out like a gracious king, the great Grand Master chose the month of May, when roses bloom and festal rites abound, to lay the cornerstone. Upon the day set down, the worshippers throng gaily round. The pipes and tabors make a joyous sound. Sweet smiling children, garlanded, parade, with waving palms and, trailing on the ground. The bamboo stems they dance, each happy maid, adorned in snow-white gown, trips gay in sun and shade. A great processional was formed, to march from many stations to a single point, where each swung into line. Then through an arch they wind, on past the gracious king, the joint. Assembling of the crafts and guilds anoint, one's eyes with tears, the monarch's heart with pride, beats high. The leaders of the line appoint a rendezvous upon the ridge and side of the plateau to view the scene from far and wide. The priests resplendent in official robes lead off the lively train. Their solemn smiles bespeak their happiness. Who inly probes shall find the friends of God can cheer the miles for weary travelers. To tread the aisles made sacred in the groves or holy fanes begets a cheerful view of life. One styles an altar ministrant unhappy. Strains of noble joy are bounding in his healthy veins. The choirs, made up of singers trained to chant the praises of Jehovah, sing the great antiphonals. The hills resound. The slant reflections of the morning sun grow straight, and then deflect again to celebrate the day, and through the hours those strains, borne upon trumpets, cymbals, pipes, dilate, exploding hearts. The dance with timbrels wanes, then sweet stringed instruments renew the music's chains. The throngs of happy strangers in the streets acclaim the festal rites. The mingling crowd in friendly intercourse each other greets. The salutation peace is cried aloud on every hand. No overhanging cloud makes threat of rain. The bell's sweet music floats and wreathes the listener in a tuneful shroud of woven music, fabric made of notes attuned to voices singing from 1,000 throats. So when the craft assembled at the spot to see the cornerstone set in its place, the master's voice in thralling accents shot the words today in use. With force and grace they fell on charmed ears. On that firm base he laid the stone. On their warm hearts he graved such laws of truth and life and love. His face shone like the face of Moses. There enslaved by winged words their paths to nobler heights were paved. A mason's word shall bind his honor fast. Not idly spoken, it shall never fail of strict fulfillment. Let the spoilers blast this rocky ridge, and pile it in the vale. But let no craftsman's word in hill or dale be judged unworthy. Better than a bond, as good as any oath, thy words avail, if, backed by moral worth they correspond to those eternal truths that last in God's beyond. This trowel spreads the even smooth cement that binds our hearts in unity. The parts are stronger bound thus each to each and blent in one harmonious whole. All human hearts are made for love. On one alone the darts of hate with fearful havoc fall. But when the trowel spreads the mortar of our arts a sacred brotherhood results. 'Tis then we warm each other's souls and grow to nobler men. A house not made with hands we truly build. Each day its due proportions grow more clear, and shall we stoop to tinsel when we gild its cornice, doors and altars, or veneer its sacred furnishings with ugly smear of olive juice, when precious oils preserve and shine on polished woods high wrought and dear? The best earth has is not too good to serve to build that unseen house which all the best serve. The work went on apace, full 7 years with steady purpose all the toilers make. Their daily contribution, prayers and tears, in equal measure rise to God, and take an odor of sweet smell to him. They ache, and groan, and sweat, but sweet the daily praise they lift to that white throne for whose dear sake they toil. And when at last they truly gaze upon the glorious shrine, their eyes seem in a daze. October, when the changing leaves display their gorgeous colors of 1,000 hues, when harvests are ingathered, and the day grows short and nights grow cool, and man reviews the gains and blessings of the year, they choose to dedicate the finished work. The glee of little children, joy of age imbues the happy people, and with spirits free they hail the coming day, a day of jubilee. It was Grand Master Hiram's daily rule to call the craft from labor at high noon, that all might seek refreshment. In the cool, sweet shade they stretch and doze and sometimes croon old songs and eat their simple meals, a boon this rest hour to the men. It was hour before the building was complete. At noon, the master's custom forthwith to repair to seek most earnestly the face of God in prayer. Within the sanctum sanctorum, on his knees, uplifting pure thoughts unto God, he'd plead no selfish interest of his own. His pleas were always for the craft. His aged head bent low in rapt devotion. See? Instead of praying for himself, he takes to him who marks the sparrow's fall, the daily tread of weary feet, the toiler's fret and whim, entreating God enthroned above the cherubim. On leaving his devotions at the gate, 3 ruffians, each intent to wrest the word, held sacred by the 3 Grand Masters, wait, and roughly shaking him, demanding, roared, "Give me the Master's word!" With one accord they smite him, till at last with heavy blow, one kills him. But they cannot well afford to leave him there, so covering him below, vile rubbish at the eastern gate they hide and go. But later in the darkness of the night they bury him. The skulking ruffians flee, but none can run from conscience. In their flight that follows them, a voice assails the 3. It is the still small voice whose gentle plea would lure the tempted sinful man to find swift help in him who rules the earth, the sea, who binds the flashing lightnings and the wind, whose love is surely infinite, his heart divine. A voice of lamentation could be heard on all the city streets that woeful day. Grand Master Hiram dead, what bat-like birds such croaking sorrow spread? Up, haste away, and fetch the rogue red-handed whose foul play would cheat the craft of one so good and wise. Slain at the temple gate, the watchmen say, by those who owed him faithful love. Arise, ye people, for revenge the earth to heaven cries. The day he died they found no temple plans outlined upon that trestle board. The thrift of time the master always taught the clans was the most precious jewel in the gift bestowed upon the men. Therefore the drift of each day's work was placed upon that board, and every man had his own task to lift. No drones might taste the sweets of labor's hoard, but all must share the burdens of their worthy lord. Farewell, O worthy master, once again farewell, O peerless wonder of the art divine. The architect of heaven put brain and soul within thee like his own. Thy heart was in this temple, it shall be a part of thee forever. So said Solomon, and so the craft. Their treasured words impart the good Grand Master's faintest wish. Anon, tradition lends approval strong, and builds thereon. Since that foul deed the Master's word is lost, the lodge preserves the rubrics, symbols, all, but never can compute the price it cost our lodge to have its master slain. No call of death's dread voice could ever more appall a lodge bereft of excellence and skill, of leadership in peace, and storm, and squall, whose members held the mighty master's will supreme. A blow like that could only lead to ill. The tenets of our faith are not in creeds a barren reason formulates. They live in actions born of love, and shine in deeds that bring relief to brothers. These outlive all theories and dreams. Hence let us give the world embodied truth, and show to all an incarnation of men who forgive, who love and serve, who always heed the call to heal the wounds of pain, and lift the souls who fall. The jewels of our lodge are not the square, the level, plumb, rough ashlar trestle board, morality, a gem we all should wear, equality that beats the miser's hoard, fair rectitude whose worth all tongues record. These 3 are level, square, and plumb combined. These 3 the mason's jewels in accord. The ashlars both are precious stones refined, suggesting chastened hearts to righteousness inclined. Cardinal is the name we give to 4 great virtues of our noble brotherhood. The first is fortitude, we need it sore. The next is prudence, sweetly wise and good. A third is temperance, 'tis Understood it strikes the golden mean in meat and drink and carnal appetite born in the blood, then justice, hoodwinked so her eyes won't blink, drawn sword in hand, and scales that will not falsely sink. The covering of our lodge is not this roof. It is the stars, the glorious firmament, fair Pleiades and Hyades, the woof of spangled constellations heaven sent with lavish hand to gild the sky. Love spent itself to give our world such beauty. Lo, the stars the architect displays are meant to signify hope, faith, and love, the bow of promise set to arch the sky long time ago. The lights, the sacred lights, a trinity illuminating our dark minds, he taught, were not mere candles made of wax we see or mutton fat. They were the very thought of God within, the candles never bought but lighted in our minds and sending rays of truth along our paths. With such we ought to find more light in masonry, which slays the darkest schools as soon as each the light displays. The ornaments of our lodge are not these signs, mosaic pavements, tessellated wood or stone, the blazing star. Virtue entwines its fairest flowers in wreaths of bloom and bud, and lays them round the altar. If we could but grasp the contents of these precious rites, unseen by naked eyes, but understood by minds from scales set free, our days and nights should shine with all the glory of celestial lights. 3 stately pillars, wisdom, beauty, strength, support the house not made with hands, in which we spend eternity. Height, breadth, and length are equal. There each one shall find his niche. Build while we may. Or, late, naught can enrich, for character alone goes with us hence. On wisdom therefore, solid bases pitch, let beauty build the wall, or hedge or fence, put strength into the structure, ere the storms come. Mence. Although the builder died, his work lives on. Yes, he himself is living yet in ways we think not. Still his power remains. Though gone, the lodge preserves his name, his laws, his praise, and shall do so until the end of days. He fixed its forms, its ritual, in part, its moral teaching even to the phrase. He taught these lessons daily from his heart, enshrining them in language of the highest art.